that crinkling sound? That's the sound of my notes.
Wish I'd printed mine out.
I didn't print. I just wrote them.
I just emailed them to myself, which is stupid because my phone's about to die. I'm at 20%.
Well, how long is that? I mean, will we get through the episode?
I don't have a super lot of notes, so probably.
I got a ton of notes.
Good.
Greg, before we get started,
That's me.
what episode is this?
Episode 45. We are back with another Knobcon, post-Knobcon episode. And as Nick pointed out on our drive back, our first episode was a Knobcon wrap-up episode.
True.
7 years ago in 2016.
What is the 7-year anniversary? Like, what's that gift? Is it like paper?
A malfunctioning stackable.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I'm
nice.
sure we all have some of
Yeah.
those tucked away.
I hope I don't. I've cut most of mine or destroyed them. Some of the new gen ones persist, but all the old ones are dead.
I still have some of the old ones.
Oh, yeah?
They still work?
Yeah.
Do you just not use them that often?
No, I use them a lot. I mean, they kind of lost the clickiness, but they're not crackling or anything, and they still work. So.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You have
I'm
all
just
of the
gentle
good ones.
with my cables.
That's true, you are.
And I don't hang them. I keep them in a drawer.
Hmm.
So I think that might have something to do with it.
I can't
I
hang
feel like when I
anything.
hung mine, they died faster.
Mm.
You have one of the Eurodesk things, right? That hex hanger that's on a mic stand. Didn't you get one of those?
My cats love cables. Basically, I have to put all of my cables away all the time, or at least like put the lids on if I've got a patch going, which is on one hand a shame, but that means I've also never hung stat cables. So maybe they lasted a little bit longer because of that.
Yeah.
Or I could just be full of shit, and hanging them has no bearing on their longevity whatsoever.
So good.
But
I just looked over and Bad Boy's like, we need to get Bad Boy a little mic.
he's all high on the nip. I gave it to him right when Dave got here.
Thought I saw the fire in his eyes.
Mm-hmm. For those who don't know, that's my cat.
The secret fourth member of this podcast.
Pretty much.
He's made like cameos in the past.
He's in a few videos on YouTube too over the years. He's a celebrity.
A synthesizer video on YouTube with a
He's
cat
a
in
synth
it.
tuber, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Speaking of synth tubers,
Speaking of synth tubers.
Knobcon 11.
we're going.
Ooh.
Wait, we're jumping right into it. I mean, so it's been a long time since we recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, since the Paul episode, which was its own thing.
It was, yeah. And if you haven't listened to that episode, maybe pause this and go listen to that. But a lot's happened since then, Greg.
Yeah.
Paul Schreiber episode.
Paul Schreiber, yes.
Yeah, you got to call him by his full name.
No, we're on first name
Demands
basis now.
respect.
It's just Paul now. Do we want to talk about any of the things that have happened in our lives since then? A lot of
We went to Knobcon.
Jesus. So I guess I can just get rid of this entire page of
No,
notes.
if there's something you want to get into. go for it.
No.
I have a lot of non-Knobcon things I want to talk about too.
Same. I figured we'd get Knobcon out of the way first.
That's fair.
Because I figured there probably wasn't a whole lot to say about it, honestly, this summer.
Really?
At least
I'm
from my
kind of
perspective.
on the same page. Yeah.
Oh, I have a lot of notes about Knobcon.
I have some, but like what I took away from it was not like as much as previous years, you know, as far as like, ooh, I like this or you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of like reveals or anything, you know what I mean? But like my first note here is Knobcon 11, possibly the most punk rock Knobcon yet.
Elaborate.
Yeah, in what regard?
So, okay. I felt like it felt less corporate again, and it felt more like a convention of enthusiastic people that weren't really hell-bent on buying shit, but more set on hanging out and just, having fun and showing off gear and stuff.
Agreed.
The biggest thing that stood out to me was like the fact that we had people setting up small studios in the hotel lobby with not just using headphones, but speakers and having little mini renegade raves in the lobby. I thought that was cool as shit.
Oh yeah, that was great.
It's something we've always joked about doing, but have never done because like the rules were always like, yeah, don't do that, don't make noise. The one year there was the please be quiet sign looming over every floor. Like that all seemed to be out the fucking window this time around. It kind of felt like, just more punk rockish, like kind of more loose.
Do you think the punks are who broke the elevator that night?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
or maybe set off the fire alarm the
Yeah.
first night. Who knows?
It could be. It was cool just to like hang out with people. Like you said, there was no, not as much corporate presence, like no big Roland thing, no big Roland reveal, which I forget what product they announced a couple of years ago there.
It was the Boutique 909.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it.
And Roland was there, but even the person running the booth, I don't even know if they were like from Roland. They seemed a little like not super informed, and they were definitely not enthusiastic.
And that booth was like focused on like product to sell kind of shit. They had like SP 404s out there. They had like, it wasn't much to like check out. It was more like, here, you can buy some of our shit here if you want to.
Well, I mean, I even stopped and got a demo. One of my notes is the spiel on the SH4D.
Oh yeah.
This is terrible, like just bad. I mean, the idea of having these sort of models of, what do they call it, classic voices, like a SH101 and a Juno 106, that's just the oscillator. So it's a model of an old oscillator, but all of them go through the same filter.
That surprised me when you told me that. I was like, really?
What a
Especially
dumb
like,
idea.
It's digital too, I believe. I don't think it's analog at all. So like, I don't know. Shit, half the juice in a 101 is the filter.
Exactly.
I mean, the oscillator too, but like, it's a lot of things.
Yeah, it was basically once he said that, because he even pulled up like, I was like, oh shit, 101, this is going to sound great. I was like, it sounds slightly different because everything else is the same. And I was like, slowly put the headphones down. And there was nothing else on the table I was even remotely interested in.
One big omission, there was no Omnisphere keyboard setup
Yeah.
with laptop this year. And I feel like that was what I was looking forward to.
Yeah, there was no Omnisphere. There was no.
Well, there was that weird point and click thing.
Yeah, I still don't know what that.
Oh yeah, I
was,
still don't know what that was.
Yeah. So is that replaced the Omnisphere? Is that like the post-pandemic weird ass thing that's going to keep popping up?
Yeah, that and VCV rack booth, which was like ghost empty, and it was just like a computer, Mac, the display ones. That's a computer.
We probably could have just taken that.
It was a little disappointing to me, actually.
Yeah.
I was kind of hyped to see what they were going to be showing off, or how they were going to be marketing VCV rack at a modular convention.
At the very least, talk to them and pick their brain.
They didn't have any hybrid setup or anything. Like, I was fully expecting to see something like that, or at least showing, someone showing off how it can integrate with hardware and a modular rig and things like that.
No stickers either. Like, for all the things, like, if I was a big VCV rack fan, I would sure as fuck put a VCV rack sticker on my laptop, or something like that. Or I would have taken one just to throw in something. I don't know. It seems minor, but it's kind of like,
the presence was minimal.
Why bother?
Yeah, it's kind of like, why bother?
Yeah.
Just to get people like us talking about it, I guess.
Right.
It's like, notice that they were there.
Yeah.
They got the participation trophy.
But no big like Elektron area or anything.
Yeah,
like
there was
that.
no like big names, and the ones that were there, like Roland and stuff like that, like they weren't really doing much. Roland's name wasn't even on the list. Yeah, no Elektron this time. There was no Moog booth. There was no Omnisphere like we're used to seeing.
Yeah.
What else was lacking?
Oberheim was there. They had some of those. That was cool.
But no Yamaha this time either.
Yeah. Or Waldorf.
Yeah, no Waldorf.
No Waldorf.
I mean, going back to your point though, Greg, not missed.
Yeah.
That's my point. Like, it felt less corporate. Like, it was very DIY and smaller independent manufacturer focused, I feel like.
A lot of my notes are from manufacturers that I've never heard of before doing weird ass shit. Now, that's kind of cool. I'm probably not going to get it, but like, you made a thing, you actually, you finished it, and you brought it out here. This is a great time to like present it to people. It seemed like there was a lot of that, like the Vondel. Did either of you check that out?
I don't think so.
It's a XY oscilloscope module.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
It's very weird. It's an oscilloscope, but it can take X or Y, either audio or CV, turn that into electrons beaming onto a surface. And it has an oscilloscope vector sort of look to it. It can take composite in. There's no composite out. The composite out is just a mirror of the composite in. There's no way to get that image except for looking at the actual material it's being beamed onto. That's weird.
Yeah.
Like and like basically would have to film it to do anything with it. That said, it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a very visually striking thing. That's a weird ass module.
That's the
Fucking
thing.
awesome.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of cool stuff
Yeah.
there
Mhm.
this year. You know, I wonder if it's like maybe because there's been so many Knobcons at that location now, maybe
Mhm.
they have a bit more clout and leeway with like being allowed to be a bit more noisy and things like that. But
Especially post-pandemic. I mean, hotels were hit
True.
I
by
mean, the
that.
staff seemed to be loving all of us.
Yeah,
Like
they were way cooler.
the bar people were super accommodating. Or bar staff, I should say, not
Yeah.
bar people. That sounds weird. The bar staff was super accommodating.
Yeah.
The cafe staff was super accommodating and friendly. Like they ran out of bubbly stuff, and one lady was like, "Hey, no problem. I'm gonna run upstairs, get you some more Perrier." And I was like, "Well, shit, thanks." You know,
Yeah.
I was like, some of the staff came over to see what the hell was going on with the lobby rave.
Mhm.
You know, some people were jamming out. Like, yeah, I don't know. It kind of feels like maybe suit and tie guy loosened the tie a little bit this time around.
But thankfully not the suit.
But not the suit. It's
Also,
still
like
banging.
from the perspective of cons and things you can have, like it's never going to get that crazy at a Knobcon. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah. It's
people are going
nerds.
to get wild, but it's like very nerdy. It's very restrained in some
Exactly,
ways
yeah.
too.
People were dancing too, though. Like even in the
dancing.
performances, people were wowing out a bit more than I think we're used to seeing.
Yeah, but
definitely.
it's not like Rolling Stones like wrecking
No,
the hotel. Like
yeah.
it was a little more lively, but it was also within the realm of, you know, nerds get drunk at a wedding vibe.
Sure.
right,
you know?
right. Good way to put it.
Didn't see anything more rowdy than I would have seen at like an anime convention.
Yeah,
or something.
exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I was really stoked on was, and I don't know if this was an accident or done by design, but there was almost like a video corner
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
with LZX, erogenous tones, and the foxing hour.
Yeah.
And it seemed like there was just like, it was drawing attention all weekend.
Oh yeah.
And again, if that was an accident, good job, universe. But if it was intentional, I think that was a really good idea, because I think everyone was just sort of like bouncing around, just getting fired up and looking at things. And I thought that was cool.
I feel like the layout was done with a little more intent this time.
I think so.
Yeah, like you point out, like the visual stuff was kind of like all around each other. Then you had things like what is it, Synth City?
Yeah. Yeah.
The people that were selling stuff, like they were all. It seemed like anyone that was like vending that was pushed all the way to the other side
Mhm.
and was also near like the Roland stuff. And then you had the Hammond organ guy kind of like tucked in the furthest back corner this
Yeah.
time. I was like,
Didn't one of you say that you saw like a rush of people going over to the Hammond organ booth?
there was a party of like old dudes in like trilbies and fedoras that were like jamming out at the Hammond organ section for a moment. It was like maybe half a dozen people, but still, that's probably the most I've ever seen at the Hammond organ booth. And they were like jamming out. I was like, clearly these guys are like in a band or like performing later in like the tent area that none of us
A band
went
I
into,
desperately do not want to see.
Yeah.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare.
But it was just, it was kind of surprising me because I've never seen anyone getting hyped up at that booth before in ever. So
Yeah, I think like if there was an overall theme that appeared for me out of this as it relates to like modulars, it's like audio shit is kind of plateaued and like it's not as intense as it was the few years before with like the digital inrush of new stuff.
right.
And the video stuff though is like starting to go off a little bit more, like a lot more.
It definitely seemed to have stolen the show this time with all the video stuff. Yeah.
And I know that's kind of skewed by like that was my focus going in a little bit more, as I'm just way more pulled by video right now from a modular standpoint. But it was just rad to see it represented and get to play with like Cro-Magnon and all the new LZX stuff.
I mean, there was a lot of heavy hitting though too, because Cro-Magnon was finally like at least con level out, and the Structure HD from erogenous tones. I mean, I think having those sitting there side by side those were for me the elephants in the room.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Structure HD was looking beautiful, and it's always like they're always just like rad people to talk to.
Yeah.
I didn't know that one of them, I forget his name right now, he works for ARM, and that kind of explains things. Okay, it's like you guys are incredibly solid at releasing software and being consistent, and kind of says something.
I like the erogenous tones folk still wear those awesome jackets too.
Mm-hmm. No, they're cool.
And there was a lot to like about the Structure HD. So I think, not that I had any worry that they were gonna not stick the landing, but it sounded like, even the fact when they were talking about it's going to be in its own enclosure because of the power demands of this are through the roof.
Yeah, it's like an amp with the version now, and I think the new audio NVIDIA thing that they're going to put on takes up even more power.
I'm not bummed at that, especially when he was talking about like a lot of the nodes either port or are easily ported. So a lot of that, what you learned in structure, is not going away. Yeah, which I think is A, awesome, but B, like a really good move. There's no reason to alienate these people that have been using it and really getting a lot out of it, and the fact that it's like imminent.
Yeah,
it's not like it's months early next year. I mean, hopefully they stick to that, but it was very exciting. LZX though,
yeah,
there was a lot going. There's a lot to unpack with LZX, good and bad.
Yeah,
I think one thing, and we talked about this in the car on the way back, is have they almost made the Cro-Magnon obsolete over the course of time by putting out so many of these small workarounds and little parts of it out to the point where you don't even need it anymore.
right.
Like there's just so much stuff that they've done in that interim that is fantastic, well designed. And this third gen is all of the old stuff and even more.
Yeah.
I think we both had a similar reaction of like, by the time we actually got to use the Cro-Magnon, we were like,
Yeah.
I was less blown away, but I think it's because with a rack of all the other stuff they've been making lately, it's just not really novel anymore.
No, it isn't. I think the things that it puts together, again, it's like this nice starter system Vidiot style, and more than like a starter, it's a pretty complete system, but the fact that they're doing it kind of after the fact is going to make it harder to, I don't know, a lot of people pre-ordered like 3 years ago for that. I'm glad I wasn't one of them because that's just a very long time to wait.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it doesn't have the pull for me that it may have once had.
Right.
Especially knowing, like you said, all the Gen 3 equivalents and things that are coming out, and seeing like the new prototype of the scrolls module, which is pretty much the Gen 3 version of Diver, which is good for like positioning shapes in a way that is hard to do otherwise, and rotating them and things like that. Yeah, I don't have any lust for the Cro-Magnon.
You picked up a new module?
I did. I got the Factors module, which is an analog multiplier, which just came out like the day before. And it's good for, and I remember talking to Nick Brown Shoes on their Discord about this, about like I wanted kind of the solarization features of the Vidiot, and they were like, oh, this Factors module kind of does that because it kind of lets you have gradients through the color space a little, if you will, and like do analog multiplication and a lot of other things. This is where like my understanding of video is still not as good as the audio side of things. I mean, I get it more and more over time, but it's still like pretty damn complicated in a way. But yeah, that module, I haven't even turned it on yet, but just playing with it there and seeing the demo, I was like, okay, that's exactly what I was looking for.
I mean, also related to video, right across from them was Foxing Hour, which I had not even heard of, let alone checked out any of their stuff. The person running the booth was awesome.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, and all of their modules look great.
Mm-hmm.
It had that almost like cadet level of like small, tidy, somewhat single function, but with the idea of it's a la carte. You pick what you need. And the one that really stood out to me was the felt filter.
Yeah,
because I've tried running LZX stuff through audio filters, and the results have been lackluster. Obviously, they've spent a lot of time with an eye towards video because they were getting these amazing like smearing effects.
Yeah.
I left and was like, well, I gotta make room for one of these, and it's only a 4 HP module. It's pretty tidy.
Yeah, that was the first thing I'd heard online was their felt module, and heard about it, and then they had a grip of other stuff too that they were coming out with, and it's like, right, keep going, and especially like it's DIY friendly, most of it seems. So that's rad. Like I'm super into that.
Hi, Greg.
Hi.
Do you have any other notes?
Sure.
Would you like to talk about that now? We've been dominating the conversation with all this video.
All this video jibber jabber.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's get back into noise talk. I hung out with Scott Harvestman.
Oh yeah.
Of Industrial Music Electronics. He had on show the new Volkmire's Inferno latest prototype, as well as the Stilson Hammer Mark III prototype. They were shown off already at Super Booth, but I was excited to have some hands-on time with them. patched up a quick percussion patch with the Stilson. It's still pretty awesome. I like all the new features that he was showing off, but some of them weren't functional yet. And while I was patching that up, he started to blast me and mangle samples from the Casio SK1 that he had stored in the sound banks of Volkmire's.
Huh.
And yeah, it sounded incredible.
So for both me and the listeners, can you give me a quick elevator pitch on what that is?
And what, Volkmire's Inferno?
Yes.
It's kind of like the next evolution of the Time Safari. It's his stereo granular processor. It seems like it's going to be a beast. I'm super excited for both. Unfortunately, still no definite ETA. He said right now his main concern is still producing the next batch of the Mark III lineup for everything, 'cause there was component shortages that he's now catching up on.
Yeah.
So he's trying to get out some new, like, the next batch of Piston Honda Mark IIIs and all that stuff. But he said he's aiming to have at least one of the two done by spring. So we'll see. Something to look forward to. From good old Scott. It was good to see him again.
Yeah.
Haven't had a chance to bullshit with him in a couple years.
It's been a while since they were at Knobcon, right?
I think they were at the last one, if I recall.
Because
there was the last one that we were at. I mean,
there was the one where he was just sitting there and blasting music by himself and like clearly trying to keep people away from his booth. There was like a radius of noise, and like people were like making like long pass away to not have to interact with him, and we just beelined straight for it. I just remember the volume being very intense.
Yeah, it was once again.
Yeah,
I tried to convince him he should perform again for Knobcon.
I would go see that.
It would be great.
I didn't get a chance to see Julie though, or at least converse with her. I saw her walking around.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's cool to see them back out there demonstrating the new stuff. Steady State Fate.
I saw you get a pretty intense spiel from them.
Yeah, I was excited to check out their. I mean, it was like brand new, like announced that day that they were going to have these new modules on show. The only one I got to check out was the one I was excited for the most, and that was their Metalloid percussion module.
Is that the hi-hat one?
Yeah, it's definitely in like hi-hat territory, but I feel like you could use it for a lot more. Similar to like the Entity percussion module or Ultra percussion module. Like on the surface, yeah, it's just like kind of a snare tom type of, module, but when you really start hitting it with modulation and opening it up, it's more like a syncussion, like a percussion voice that you can use, to do like synth work and all kinds of stuff. I kind of see some potential in that regard with the Metalloid. Like the sound that you can get out of it reminded me a lot of like the Hex Inverter Jupiter Storm with the Galilean Moons combo. Like you can just do some really noisy metallic percussion, or you can just kind of like let it go wild and have like a strange metallic synth voice. I was liking it. I'm excited for it. It's 2 oscillators, each with their own filters, and like.
And it's a big boy, right? Like it's taking
sizable.
up a lot of space.
Yeah, I think it's the same size as the Entity percussion, I think.
Probably like, what are they, like 14 or 16 or something?
But there's a lot packed in there. You got the dual oscillators. Each can be triggered on their own or stacked. If you're just using like the first trigger input, the A input, I should say. Yeah, I like metallic percussion, so I'm excited.
I'm very surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like you at all.
Yeah. That was the only one I got to play with hands-on. They had a couple others, like the new random module and things like that, which I didn't have time to play with.
Yeah, and some of the new like Sputnik ones that SSF also makes. He had like the, what is it, low pass gate or some like expanded low pass gate, and then some other module I didn't, like, kind of glossed over.
I didn't even know those were in there either. I missed that. Yeah,
I also think that they brought those out while they were talking to you, because I was standing like a little bit far away, and then I noticed like your back.
Oh.
And there was like a angle, like a table to the side, and they were setting it up, and then you walked away. I actually had meant to tell you, like, hey, you should go back and see what else they were setting up.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, I didn't see this.
That's my bad.
He
I think
did.
they were setting up the surge. That it was
Oh, was
right
that what
next
it
to
was?
yeah.
Okay, I just know that they were setting up something like while your back was turned to them.
Yeah.
And I dropped the ball and letting you know. I'm letting you know now, so that kind of counts.
They did mention while he was giving me the rundown on this that like they weren't fully set up yet. They didn't even have their speakers out yet or anything. But I was excited to just get there first and check it out before anything else. So I guess I missed out on some stuff because of that. But
This is why getting up early is dumb.
yeah, exactly.
Like all the time. It never works out.
Never works out.
And what else was there? There was the 4 milliseconds meta module, which I don't think any of us actually checked out because we didn't necessarily know it was there until after.
Yeah, and I kept seeing big crowds around it. And at one point, like Russ was like, hey, did you go see 4MS? And I was like, and I looked over and there's like 20 people. And I'm like, I don't like people. I don't want to go.
Yeah. It's also like I know that there are some people that are very into that concept, but for me, it is a very non-starter to have like, I can see some use cases for it, but for me personally, it's like nowhere near what I would want to be doing.
I am super excited about it.
Oh yeah, that's good for you. Like it makes a ton of sense. I get it.
Being able to like further my hybrid setup is very exciting to me. To be able to also like create some of the stuff that I want to do live within VCV and plop that into a module in my rig and not have to bring a computer. That's really exciting to me.
This is getting like some like Orbero stuff though, because now you have like the
that's
you had the
Inception,
hardware.
man.
Like you had hardware.
It's meta as fuck. Hence the name, I guess.
So you had hardware
modules within modules
that was then emulated by software, which then is now being emulated in hardware. Like it's where does it end, Greg? Where does it end?
I hope it never does.
Give a little like spin a little top, and it just never stops spinning.
That's what that point and click module is about. It's about virtualizing the 4 milliseconds meta in a module that then runs other modules.
Oh wow! So like now the feedback loop is just instantaneous.
That's why VCV Rack there was nobody there because they touched it and disappeared. They were like, oh,
just pulled into the metaverse, Tron style. Except you're inside like a living Facebook world.
I'm a Bafaco filter now.
So if you went over and looked at that 4MS screen, it's just the guy from VCV Rack screaming, "Let me out!
Let me out!" The resolution is terrible in here. No, it's cool. They always like they have some ballsy ideas 4 milliseconds and they can pull them off. So I guess it boots up in like 2 seconds and they claim it has like very low latency, but I would love to see like millisecond values for the input and output.
Also, I have to play the old person card. There's no way I could see that screen.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would not want to program something on that. That's for sure.
Okay. I can't imagine
it's
actually
something
using
that it's something that I would want to set up in advance in VCV and have things mapped and then just plop it in there. Like the way I envision myself using it, the screen is just a bonus to show me what is going on there if I ever need to reference it. But otherwise, like it would just be running stuff in the background that I've already pre-patched and dropped on there and can now modulate.
That makes sense.
Looking at it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense than trying to actually start from scratch and, pull that up on that module and start trying to use it.
They said that you can.
You can. It's like you can patch the whole thing on there, which is hard to imagine looking at the interface, but it's cool that they did it.
Yeah.
I like that you can have like true like kind of presets in a core of this module, and it opens up some interesting ideas as far as doing that. I remember like misguided attempts at trying to get like presets in a modular for live sets and stuff, which kind of makes me fucking puke in my mouth a little right now, but I can understand like reasons. I don't know. I'm just really like put off, especially like I don't want to hear anybody like play techno with a modular anymore. I just think it's kind of like you're going the wrong way. As I say that as somebody who's very guilty of doing that in the past, and I'm just not into it. I don't know. It just feels like someone like showing you, I got it to work. It's like, well, that's like step one. Yeah.
I mean, maybe taking a step back though. I mean, that was one of the things we talked about that was interesting about this Knobcon was people taking those chances and doing weird ass shit. This might not be one to hit for you and I.
True.
But it is bold as fuck. And like, man, you made that happen. That's fucking weird. And you made it happen. At the very least, congratulations on coming up with a very hot, like it seemed like you came up with that when you were high and it actually came to fruition.
Right.
Bravo.
That like basement area too. I'll say I've been to a number of clubs in the country in the past year, and that was the loudest environment I've been in maybe ever. It was like hitting 107 decibels when that noise engineering rep started, and like my God, when it first like, because he just like went to 100 immediately, and like it felt like something physically bad was happening in the room for a second. Like the startling feeling was something I never will quite forget.
So I've gone to multiple. I've seen Sun multiple times now, and that start of that performance was probably the most like abrupt, abrasive, like not I don't think it did damage, but it did not do damage.
Yeah,
It was a little bit like this is crossed into the kind of irresponsible. Like it was too loud.
Especially looking over, seeing the sound dude, like eyes closed, gripping a bottle of whiskey, just like swaying his head. I was like, this is the type of shit that I don't have any patience for anymore.
Yeah, sound. The sound engineering could have been a little better in the bug out room, that's for sure.
In the upstairs room that Jim Coker was running, that sounded pretty damn good the whole time, actually.
Yeah, there were some good performances up there. I really dug it.
Yeah, the person from New York Modular Society, I forget their name, but that's it. That was the set I ran away from the downstairs one and escaped up to that one, and I'm glad I did because like that one was really good. Breakbeat, like kind of had a little energy to it. It was nice.
And the person that was described as like a daughter of Drexia.
Oh yeah, Frey.
Yeah, I don't know anything about them, but I really dug their set, and it was really interesting and varied, and it sounded good. It was reasonable volume.
Yeah.
I really dug it.
Nice to hear some jungle, like some breaks, like being fucked up too.
And Russ did a good job.
Yeah, Russ killed it. That was my actual favorite performance I've seen Russ done.
Yeah.
I feel like he hit a stride, even though his Electri BMX died or something happened there. But I think it was like, to be honest, it was like blessing in disguise. Not that anything coming out of there would have been bad, but like what he pulled off, he didn't need that. Sounded full to me.
And I gave him some shit afterwards, but honestly, his recovery just was like, all right, show must go on. Switched up and just started freestyling on the continuum. Bravo, well done.
Yeah, it was a good one. He's getting a lot better with the continuum too.
And there was a lot of visuals. So it was like there was a recording of him projected, and then someone was doing visuals over it. Made it look like it was very exciting.
Yeah,
well done. And they had everyone set up. It looked like there was like a lot of tables set up, so it was real tidy. It was like a set would end, minute or two later, next one started.
Yeah, the performances all felt tight and well thought out this time around. I liked everything that I heard in both rooms. I don't think any of us hit the tent out back, which I know there was other performances happening there too, but I think that was more of the Moog worshippers of Knobcon of old. I think that's kind of where they all kind of gathered this time around.
Also, full disclosure, I just kept forgetting it existed.
Yeah,
that too.
I think there was more stuff in there Friday night or something, like before we got in.
Yeah.
And yes, I say Moog.
No, you've said it multiple times now, and I've been like
I say fucking Moog.
Wow.
I don't care.
All right, Grieg. We're going fast and loose with people's names now, huh? All right, that's cool.
And I say Autechre.
Wait, what? That's right. That's right.
Some people say Auditor.
That's wrong.
That's wrong, yeah. I have no time for those people.
My favorite performance, though, was the freestyle performance we stumbled upon out in the smoking courtyard.
Oh my god, yeah.
The gentleman with the violin and his friend with the accordion that were just jamming out for like an hour straight.
I would love to have talked to them because they were absolutely killing it. I could have hung out and drank whiskey with them all night.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah.
Also, just using that space is a cool idea.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it's an underused spot. No one ever really even hangs out there that often.
I've always considered that the weed spot.
Yeah.
At least that's what I've treated it as every year.
And isn't that also what you two were leaving to go do?
That's exactly what I was going to do.
Yeah,
we stepped outside to have a smoke, and lo and behold, there was a little freestyle performance happening out there. And there was some other gentleman with a very large Sherlock Holmes style pipe. I was like, okay, I see you. It was weird. It was such a strange contrast. Like, we stepped out of the noise engineering performance. Like, he had finished his set, and my ears were bleeding. I was like, I need some fresh fucking air and have a toke. And stepped out to the courtyard, and there was acoustic instruments going, and it was very strange.
Schaumburg, Illinois is a weird place if nobody on this listening to this has ever been there. Strange industrial park, little like weird neighborhoods tucked in. We walk to our cheesecake factory, Kuma's Corner, Denny's.
Yeah.
All the good shit.
Shout out to Kuma's Corner once again.
Yeah.
Kuma's Corner is rad.
Making a wicked veggie burger.
Yeah, fuck yeah, they did.
I thought you were about to shout out Cheesecake Factory.
And shout out to Cheesecake
I'm gonna
Factory.
throw this fucking mic at you.
I thought cheesecake was made as fuck this time.
Well, we missed the brunch.
True. Good point.
We were 30 minutes too late. I think that was the problem.
Yeah.
No, the problem was we were in a Cheesecake Factory. That was our first mistake.
Shout out to the table full of nuns that was sitting behind us.
Yeah.
Also doing a late breakfast. I see you. I don't know if I have anything else to say about Knobcon.
Well, I have a note that is apparently I was very excited about this earlier today when I was writing down notes because it's got a star beside it and a rectangle sort of surrounding it.
Ooh.
I touched a Fairlight.
Oh yeah, you did.
Oh.
You even inquired of the price.
I did, and it was very much the if you have to ask, you can't afford it vibe.
Mhm.
But I was informed that they had not priced it yet, but they were going to be entertaining offers. Clearly, they sized me up and did not give me any more information about how I could make an offer, knowing full well I couldn't actually afford it. I think they said it was going to. They were think it was going to be around 15 grand, which actually was a little bit low considering the prices of some of the other shit that they had, which was jacked up.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised, but it was so cool to see in real life. I mean, it's a legendary piece of gear that, at this point I can't even imagine any of them still working, but this apparently was a fully functioning one. I also imagine it's a nightmare to use. We've made a lot of improvements in how we make electronic music since then, but it was still cool to see, touch. They even had like the manual there, and I kind of wanted to start flipping through it, but I was like, my luck, I'd fucking break this, and
you break it, you bought it.
Exactly. It's like I cannot afford this, but it was cool. It was cool to see in a touch.
That's why I never touch the bookless stuff at any Knobcon. I refuse to touch it because I'm like, I don't want it to plant that seed in my head, and I'm scared of breaking it.
You broke that Fairlight. What's your name?
Exactly.
Ryan Friedrich.
I am Russ from Evaton Technologies. Just send the bill to me. I would just flip it and run and just start like knocking shit
Table
over.
flip it.
That whole Fairlight display and all the expensive stuff behind it just kind of inspired like a whole Ocean's 11 plot in my brain throughout the day. I just kept thinking of ways like, how could we steal this and get away with the great Knobcon heist?
Oh, it'd be easy.
See, that's the problem. That's the first mistake. I bet it would be easy. And then it's Grand Theft Auto here.
I'm just picturing a suit and tie guy in like a fucking all black, like skin tight outfit, like
someone dropping him down from a rope, Mission Impossible style,
to infiltrate us. That's all he does is sit up there with like night vision all night, looking over the Fairlight in his Moog.
My brain even went as far to think that maybe the fire alarm the night before was like a dry run.
Ooh.
Somebody else might be planning this out, you know what I mean? And then somebody wheels out the Fairlight during the chaos of a fire evacuation.
Yeah. Wait, what if that was the decoy and someone had already stolen the Fairlight?
Oh shit!
That's the fake one.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I didn't even.
It's like one of the metal photos Cincinnati. They just rolled in the bent metal version of it that's totally empty. That looks identical.
It's a 3D printed Fairlight somebody made.
It had been stolen days earlier.
It's all like
it's just running a video loop. Yeah.
But if you watch it, you'll notice that like there's a little glitch where the loop restarts. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Wait a second. Show me the live feed.
But by then we're long gone.
It's just an iPad and you like pinch to zoom and it's like a Stevie Wonder video on fucking YouTube.
Oh shit.
Speaking of that area, the Mornacks, the guys from Mornacks.
Yeah.
It was rad to see them. We'd met them. Greg and I had met the guy from
just
Mornacks
weeks prior
at Katabatic in the Pacific Northwest, and thankfully they recognized us because they looked a lot different than when we met them.
True.
And they just ran up and gave you a hug.
Yeah.
And
caught me off guard.
But it was great to see them. It was they're fucking amazing dudes, and it was cool to bullshit with them for a while.
Absolutely. Showed us proof of concept, overly elaborate sequencer that he built into the firmware for Mordax data, and
I love that the punchline was, "Well, I would never use this."
Yeah.
Right.
he built it, and now he wants to remove it before it's even been released. I'm like, that's
Love
cool, but it was neat.
Yeah.
I think we all had a little bit of feedback to give him about it,
Yeah.
and some of the other stuff he was showing off. Still no sign of the granular
Right.
module. Yeah, I drilled him a little bit about it at the Katabatic Festival, but I think that was all discussed like what's in confidence, I'll say.
Yeah.
So like yeah, I probably shouldn't mention that, but yeah, it was.
So we've admitted to stealing a Fairlight,
Uh-huh.
or at least planning this like conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate though that you have found your moral compass
Yeah.
and won't reveal this.
I don't want to say anything that might prevent it from coming out.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
want to
Yeah,
see it
yeah.
happen. I've been excited about that one for a while.
In any case, it was rad to see them.
It was rad to see them, and it was unrad to not see Paul Schreiber.
Yeah.
No Paul this year.
Miss you, Paul. You're saying his full name still. I think it's okay.
I think there's a lot of Pauls in the world of modular.
Not in my
so
heart.
I don't want to be specific.
It's just one in my heart.
I got a Paul-shaped heart that only Paul can fill. So I have one more note, and I assume
No,
everyone
we're
knows.
moving on.
No, we
No
can't
more
move
Knobcon.
on.
What is it?
Noise Engineering Xer Mixa.
It's an important note.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they previewed this before Knobcon a couple days, or maybe even earlier than that, and it caught my attention because I've never really had a stereo mixer that did what I wanted. And there's obviously a bunch out there. This is not entirely novel. But when I saw this as a Noise Engineering mega fan, super fan, I was like, okay, they're going to be at Knobcon. I'm going to check this out. And one of those like, well, they're going to screw up something, and then I'll just convince myself not to get it. I'll just cut to the chase. They did not screw up anything. I think they nailed absolutely everything.
Yeah, it looks rad.
Yeah. This was only a week ago, and it was a busy week, so I've not had a chance to play with it a lot. But it's fucking astounding. It's 10 stereo paired inputs, 8 with faders, 2 just as is, and 3 stereo out. There's a main and an AB. And the AB, there's a lot of things you can do with different routing. Clickless mutes, and there's an expander that provides 8 CV inputs that you can decide what you want to do. Basically, anything can be assigned CV from these inputs, including you can create a VCA from this. I mean, this is very versatile. You can save and load 7 presets, and you can flip. They call them scenes. You can flip through them and switch between them via MIDI on the fly. And this is an all analog path with obviously a digital control. There's a screen that controls some things. I think they did a good job of not leaning on the screen too much.
Yeah.
You by and large don't need to do a lot with the screen. And in fact, in like a sort of live performance, or basically what it seems to be most of the time, it's just going to show you the main. It's going to be a meter for the main and the AB. And every once in a while you may have to go and change something in the config or routing. One of the things that was really interesting, I was surprised to see, was they even have what appears to be a gain stage, an actual amp, so you can go above unity, crank it up a little if you want to. And one of the questions from our Patreon Discord was, I think it was Luke, who was like, "Oh, I'm surprised there's no send and receive on it." There isn't. There's not a dedicated send and receive, but you can set it up to do that pretty easily.
Mm.
And I think the way that they set it up was to make it a little bit more versatile than that. What you route to these A and B outputs, you've got a lot of choices, and it's all done through the screen configuration. And then you send it out, process whatever you want, come back in through either the A, B, or literally any of the other channels can be your receive on your path. They went over it. They went over the spiel. It was a guy who had performed We talked about the noise engineering performer. It was him from the night before. I think it's also the person who does their videos.
It is.
Oh.
Yeah. Same
Yeah.
voice.
And by the time they were done, I was like, fuck. You didn't say anything I didn't like. I was waiting to be talked out of it. I was obviously not talked out of it. I bought one the next day. I think it's fantastic. It's taking up a lot of rack space. It's probably the only downside to it, but given everything it does, I think it's a reasonable trade-off.
Yeah, this was obviously the year of the big mixers at Knobcon and beyond, and quite a few out there. There was also the Board Brain one that I forget the name. To Paul's earlier point on our last episode, sometimes use the uniqueness of your company name as the, like, the namespace and just call it Mixer, like Board Brain Mixer or Big Mixer or something, because there's just like the Excelor or something like that. It was pretty impressive. They gave me a demo of it. Similar to the Noise Engineering one, it pretty much nailed all the features. Noise Engineering one does a lot more. It was still cool. I liked how they like built it for line level, and then I asked them, "Oh, do you have like 1/4 inch input thing for it?" And they kind of looked at me and like, "Oh, it's not a bad idea." I'm like, "Yeah, you could like take over the small mixer market to a degree if you did that. Granted, you can make like converter cables, but nobody wants to fuck with that really." So it also looked good, but I would pick the Noise Engineering one if I had to pick.
What's the price differences between the two?
I don't know. Good question. I don't know if they had a price for the Board Brain one, or at least I didn't see one.
Yeah. Because I kind of feel like the Noise Engineering one is like the Cadillac of mixers, which I feel like used to be a title held by the WMD Performance Mixer,
Yep.
but I think this might usurp. The WMD is like the king of mixers and Eurorack.
I also got a good deal by buying it at Knobcon.
Yeah,
I basically
got
got
that
the
Knobcon special.
Yeah.
Knobcon special. I didn't have to pay for shipping. I basically got the expander for free and still like a couple bucks off the top.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the benefits of going to cons is
Exactly.
you get those deals. And speaking of benefits, you mentioned our Discord earlier,
I
Dave.
did.
How does one access that?
I have no idea.
I'll tell you. You can subscribe to our Patreon for $5 a month. You can get Discord access and ask us nerdy questions. We won't judge you. We'll talk with you. We'll be your friend for the low price of $5 a month. Please be my friend.
So wait, it sounds like you should be paying them.
No, I just wanted to throw that out there,
No,
because I forgot to do that in the last episode.
Oh yeah, we're
we've-
bad at selling ourselves.
Yeah, it seems like we've gotten quite a few new listeners since the Paul interview episode. So, yeah, if y'all aren't aware of it, and we do have a Patreon and a Discord, a little budding community that you can be a part of for $5. And now I'm done pretending I'm on NPR.
Yeah, because we're not giving you a tote bag for your recurring.
Oh, we should though.
Like full on, just lean into the NPR aspect of it. Like,
Yeah, and not a tote bag for us, but like an NPR tote bag.
just go and get like dumpster dive a bunch of NPR tote bags from the back of WUSA. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
And on that note, it might be time to drag us all down into the depths
Oh
of
shit.
the Elektron Korner.
I'm gonna say, do I smell Elektron coming up?
Oh, you smell it.
We should have a theme for this. Like
We really do.
bum bum bum.
Yeah, bum, bum, bum.
There we go.
I'll crank something out.
Hell yeah. Insert Elektron Korner
Yeah.
theme song here.
Yeah, I looked at my reverb purchases and I was like, holy shit, I've gotten like 3 different Elektron things and cycled through a bunch of them. Such a weird, twisted saga. I think a couple episodes ago, I was like, Octatrack Mark II, greatest thing, blah, blah, blah. Sold that. Got another Octatrack Mark I for much less. Holy shit. Got a Model Cycle, sold that. Don't regret that. And then got the Analog 4, which was fucking light bulb moment.
Mark
of like,
II, right?
Mark II.
Yeah.
Of one of the honestly the coolest synthesizers I own and think I've ever used. Like Analog 4 has been really my good friend lately. I think it sounds much bassier. The overdrive is full of like flavor. Whereas what I remember from the Mark 1 when I had it for like 2 days, I thought it was thin as fuck, and I didn't
Same,
like the
yeah.
sound. And somebody, Ramteen, actually local like Pittsburgh artist, like kind of confirmed that for me. It was like, oh yeah, I have the Mark 1 because it makes these like cold, thin sounds, and I tried the Mark 2 and it won't do that shit. And I was like, okay, it makes me feel a little less insane because I got it and was like, what the fuck have I been wasting my time the past 10 years, like not always having this next to the analog rhythm? If you know how to use the analog rhythm, you know how to deal with all the mechanics of the analog 4. You can just kind of get to business, with the exception of like a bunch of the nuances in the synth engines and like how some shit works.
Stacking the voices.
How the voices stack, how you steal the voices. One of my few complaints, and this is just a dumb complaint that many people have, is that I wish it had more voices instead of 4. Then it would not be called the analog 4. But an analog 8 would be cool because I'd find myself like running out of voices. Like I generally leave things in poly. I like the way voice stealing sounds sometimes too. Gives you something you didn't like program in yourself. But the trinity of the Rhythm Mark II, Analog 4 Mark II into the Octatrack Mark 1 has been just like all I fucking do musically lately. I haven't turned my modular on in a while.
That would drive me crazy, having the 2 Mark IIs going into a Mark 1, which deviate. It's back to the black box thing. I would need them all look, I'd need a uniform vibe. Like the Mark IIs have that nicer, larger interface,
They do have some buttons that are missing from the Mark 1, like the record 3 button, which is kind of an annoying thing because the EasyBot performance template uses that record 3 button to like stop recording of like the 8-bar loops. So I've got to go into the track menu and then hit the MIDI button on the Mark 1.
It's wild to me to hear you having an Octatrack Mark 1 again. Like that. That's up there, like if you were to tell me you bought like an MPC again.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's like when I think of Nick making music, like the first things that pop in my head is like Octatrack Mark 1, MPC, and Machine Drum. And like it's kind of cool that you're back on a Octatrack Mark 1 because I think that's the machine everyone loves to hate at this point.
Oh yeah.
And like you still have love for it after all these years.
I will admit that like the physical using it, like my muscle memory with it is like right on track. And I remember with the Mark II, I would still get like caught up a little with like, wait, what's going on? Whereas the Mark 1, I don't have to really think about it too much. It's just like, oh yeah, there it all is kind of thing. And I don't mind it. Like I don't notice, and this could just be my, what is it, confirmation bias when it's like you already have something, but it doesn't sound any worse than the Mark II did to me. It still sounds plenty bassy when you get the levels right and everything. So I'm not mad at it right now, except for like I've got to replace some of the encoders. But to be honest, I got that Mark II Analog 4 for like $1,000 on Reverb, or actually less than that. And I got this Octatrack for like $690 or something like that.
So last night I watched Alien 4 Resurrection, and I'm now imagining like you as Ripley, like stroking the head of this disgusting alien, and like you are the only thing in the universe that loves this hideous monster, and it's just this beautiful, this beautiful relationship.
That's a beautiful image and a podcast right there. Just finish on a high note. But no, it's man, I fucking love that combo. It's just nice to be able to I like fixed architecture right now. I like not having choices. I like not being able to configure too much and just kind of like seeing how far I can push these machines. And I watched a 2-hour Octatrack video today, like, cause I'm trying to make my own performance template, but a lot of the work that EasyBot's done is like not inconsequential. Like some of those effects that he's built, like that would take a long time to build on your own. There's some really good, like intelligent choices put into there.
So is this for studio time and live, or vice versa?
It's almost indistinguishable to me right now. Okay. I just use these 3 in the similar way. Like everything I do for studio stuff is like building a live set and just like dealing with it a little differently. It's all the same thing, which is kind of cool. It's just a very simple thing to have these like 3 boxes. Oh, and the Fader Fox EC4 that I got to control the Octatrack, which is really another thing. I wish I would have gotten like some rotary encoder thing for the Octatrack way back, because I used to always I don't use the MIDI side of the Octatrack anymore, at least not right now, but I used to juggle between those live and get confused. And this is a nice way to like have a dedicated
Mhm.
You can always have the audio filter for the track, even if you're in the MIDI mode, because you
Mhm.
haven't mapped on this fader Fox. And it's just, the fader Fox has a nice feature, and the Octatrack does, where you can send it a CC value, CC61, and it'll, the Octatrack will send all the knob values out to the controller.
Is this the
So-
old Fader Fox from like 20 years ago?
No, this is a newer one.
Okay.
This is the one that has the LCD screen and the
Oh, gotcha.
16 rotaries.
Mhm.
So you can see the name. You can name these things,
Mhm.
edit the values on the controller. It's like, it's slick. It's the only Fader Fox I've ever had,
Mhm.
but I really fucking dig it.
Oh, that's
For
awesome.
this use case, it's beautiful. So yeah.
I have something to contribute to the Elektron Korner.
Oh really?
Yeah. Since the last episode, I too got an Elektron box.
What the fuck is going on here?
I bought the Rhythm Mark II. Back on that rhythm tip. And it's Nick's fault.
It is.
And I'm real close to being on that A4 Mark II tip
Yeah.
again. That would be the third time that I've purchased an A4.
Oh, that's number 3 for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
But my it's already become a love-hate relationship with the rhythm.
Yeah.
Like, I love the sound of it. But again, I find myself kind of annoyed being stuck inside like the box for sequencing and such.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was trying to figure out how to like get around that. And so I started looking into Overbridge for the first time, which is a feature I've largely ignored all this time with Elektron. I just never had an interest in it.
Mhm.
And for the most part, I thought it was only to use your devices as like an audio interface, which I had zero need for.
Mhm.
So never paid attention to it. But then I had the idea. I was like, wait a minute. It does include a VST plugin. I was like, can I open that within VCV Rack and control it and sequence it that way? Turns out you can, which is fucking awesome. However, I'm getting like a full second worth of latency, and I cannot figure out why.
Welcome
I've
to
done
Overbridge.
Yeah, I've done every tip and trick that I could find on any forum and YouTube video, and it made it slightly better, but it is still like around a full second.
Your computer and everything it's pretty beefy.
My computer's pretty beefy, and
Yeah.
I have zero latency with anything. Like, again, this is my hybrid environment. Like, I'm controlling modular stuff with VCV. I'm routing it from VCV out to my hardware,
Yeah.
back in, sometimes through my modular, through my pedal module, going through pedals, back into the ES9, and then back into VCV Rack. And it's always been milliseconds worth of delay, like minimal delay.
I'm also imagining you doing everything you just described, but also in VR.
I would love to. I think that's the next step for sure. But yeah, the fact that I cannot get something that is USB to go slower or faster rather than like 1 second.
That's substantial. Yeah, that's
it's
outrageous.
pretty hefty, and I don't know why.
Has anybody else on the internet run into this?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
every forum ends up with a dead end. Like, there's
Oh,
no
wow.
solution. Like, I was looking on the Electronox forums, I was looking on the VCV Rack forums, I was looking on Reddit, and it always ends up with like no answer or solution proposed.
I went
It's-
down the Overbridge wormhole like 6 months ago, maybe, when I was like, oh, I'm going to like multi-track the rhythm this way. Shout out to Gabo, who knows all this pain. But like, you can even get consistent start time latency. Like you said, you can change a MIDI config item and it'll change the latency of Overbridge. Like, it's,
which is should be
Holy shit.
completely unrelated.
it
Yeah,
should be completely unrelated.
that
but
was one of the tips, was disable everything MIDI in the OS on the rhythm itself. So I did that.
Yeah.
I made sure that the host XL wrapper in VCV Rack was set to a block of 256,
Mhm.
which matches the audio interface within VCV that I have set for 256,
Right.
Osseo buffer.
Right.
So everything matched. Everything was set to be around like 5 milliseconds. So it should be a 10 millisecond round trip, not 1 second. It's incredibly frustrating because I feel like there's got to be a trick
Yeah.
or something that would
Or a bug
fix
fix.
this,
There's got to
but,
be
yeah.
just something in a piece of code somewhere that is like, oh, I'm blocking on that for no reason.
Yeah.
Or I've allocated too much memory.
Yeah. Or they're up against some hardware architectural
Yeah.
thing that is not movable. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. I wish they would have just collaborated with RME like at the outset and been like, make us a USB interface that'll work with this thing, because that's the only company that like rolls their own USB stack, and like
It's
that's why their shit's all
too.
super low latency,
Like that kind of boggles my mind too. Like,
which should be like, I've had USB 2 shit, like the RME Babyface was USB 2, and that shit was fucking solid.
I mean, you're right. That is an older standard, but it is still it is well beyond capable of delivering low latency in the with when you think about how little data is actually being sent around, you're talking about kilobytes of data.
Well, that's the thing. This is overbridge, so you're not doing anything with MIDI at this point. It's audio, like straight from the box.
This is purely MIDI.
It does both. It does.
I thought it was MIDI.
everything.
Yeah, I thought there was MIDI as a.
You can, but
it's a sound card.
I'm not doing anything with the MIDI. Like,
oh, you're not. Oh, I thought because you said you're doing with sequencing.
Yes, I'm sequencing each track internally within VCV Rack, converting it to MIDI. I guess you could say it's converting it from CV gate to MIDI gate, and triggering the tracks, and then the audio is streaming from the overbridge plugin itself. I have no audio physically plugged in at this point.
I'm sorry. I thought you were gotcha. I thought you were triggering MIDI events from VCV and just sending that over bridge to the rhythm.
Nope.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and if this was lower latency, it would be like a fucking dream for me. Like being able to just do everything within VCV and trigger it and still have your hardware doing hardware things,
right,
but without all the cables and all the mess, and without MIDI at all. That's how I am. I'm not a big fan of MIDI, so it's like being able to do that and sequence CV control parameters, which I had mapped too. Like it works flawlessly. Like I had to use a couple modules to multiply the value of the the voltage to make it work, but worked like a charm. It's just the latency's killing me.
It's so close, but it's so far away. Like you can record bars in Ableton and hit stop and hit start again, and it'll just be totally different. Or you can give it like a few bars to calm down and it'll like get closer, but then you can like sneeze and then go back to it, and it's like different latency values. When I hook up like my interclock sending MIDI to a rhythm and an analog 4, and I hit start and stop and get it dialed in, it's fucking sample accurate like every fucking time, and they can't manage to like make that work over USB. It's kind of frustrating.
It's make me want to sell it already, to be honest, and just go back to drum modules.
I get it.
Bums me out because I love the sound of that box, but I don't want to be locked into the Elektron sequencer, so I don't know. We'll see. Maybe this week, if someone wants a lately loved Mark II rhythm, it might be going up for sale.
So if you're interested in joining our Patreon, you will have access to the Discord where you can then convince Craig that this is just intractable, and that he needs to sell it, and then offer a very lowball price. That Greg will then eagerly accept out of frustration.
Lowball me. Show me what you got.
If it was an analog 4, I would buy that shit off you in a heartbeat, because I like want to, but it's ridiculous to do it for me right now. But I want to.
I might try to trade somebody for the A4. I think I might prefer doing drums and modular once again and having an A4 box, because that doesn't need to exist in my modular really. I'd rather have like a nice little 4-voiced synth box.
It's a lot too. It's amazing, like all the shit that's in there. Like you can change like the curve of the envelopes and stuff too. Like I really like that aspect.
If I could have that running with rhythm all through overbridge with like a reasonable latency, that would be like a dream
Shoot
setup.
it in my fucking veins. Sign me up.
I would probably even start to look at the smaller black boxes at that point too, like the Syntec and
if you could get all that shit working together, I would buy all of it. You remember like the Mark I IRA stuff? They had that mixer, and you could hook up like a TR-8S like over USB.
Yeah,
that shit worked. Like, as far as I know, like it was pretty solid.
Virus TI.
Oh yeah, that shit like half worked, but they got close.
I always used it through the USB, and it worked well enough for me. I don't remember
Right.
experiencing any type of latency this bad that I am experiencing
Oh,
right
yeah.
now with
No,
Overbridge.
Full second is fucking
And that came
ridiculous.
out over a decade
Yeah,
ago.
oh, yeah.
You
Long
know,
time
like,
ago.
they need to get their shit together, Elektron.
Well, I'm just glad that we ended Elektron Korner on the note that it should. It was getting too positive. It was
Yeah,
getting too
I had to
happy.
balance you out there, Nick.
Yeah.
I had to complain about some shit.
Well, I can say the model cycles was fucking super. Like, I know you like it. I did
I
not.
still
like,
love that thing.
I didn't get along with it
No?
too well. No, there was something about like the fact that you can gain like kick drum on there so much that it just blots out every other sound on
Yeah,
there.
you
And,
can.
like, the headroom is crazy.
You got
on that
it's
thing.
you got to be really careful with the gain staging on there.
Yeah.
It's like anything past that mark is all overdrive, and yeah, it'll start to shit on anything else going on in the mix,
Yeah.
which sometimes I like. I've given praise on here before for the cycles, and I still like it. I feel like it's one of the niftiest things they've put out since a machine drum, because it's like it harkens back to that sound a little bit, and it's cheap, and it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
overly convoluted like a digitone, for example. You know, like
Yeah.
I hate the interface on that thing, but
Oh yeah.
for the most part, a cycles is one knob per function. It's super easy. It's not very menu divey, you know, like
Yeah.
I don't know, and I like the sounds of it. It sounds shitty, don't get me wrong, like
Yeah.
it definitely doesn't sound great,
Mhm.
but for $200 I love it. I think it's worth every
Yeah.
penny.
No, I agree. The value is there for sure. I got mine for like $200 too, or something.
Yeah,
less than
no,
that.
it's
like
cheap as hell.
Kind of nuts. But then I realized too, as I often do with their new shit, like, oh, you didn't have direct jump pattern switching, like fucking assholes. I'll buy anything that they make with direct jump pattern switching, with the exception of the Octatrack, where I don't really care because I don't use it like that. I don't need to like toggle back and forth between patterns, but I like doing that too
Yeah.
much.
The lack of consistency across Elektron devices is the one
Nuts.
thing that really frosts my ass.
You can't
but-
do like parameter slides on the small boxes either, and that kind of like pisses me off too, because that's a great feature, like being able to just slide fucking parameter values like real easy. They don't even have that on there, or like accents either, or something ridiculous. It's like, what the fuck? I don't know.
I'm just glad we ended on the right tone.
Yeah.
Everything was going too smooth. Was there more for Elektron Korner?
I don't have anything else for Elektron Korner. I see you have another page worth of notes there, dude.
No, these are the ones that I threw out because we just jump right into Knobcon.
Well, I'll just jump right out.
What do you got?
So at the top, again, with a star and like it's surrounded. Apparently, I thought this was very important when I wrote this earlier. It just says, "I'm tired." So like the last couple weeks have been daunting. There's a catabatic trip to the Pacific Northwest. Craig and I and a bunch of other people went to. It's fantastic. And then the following week was Big Noise Candy Mountain in West Virginia, and then Knobcon. And then I had a bunch of like random house projects, including building a fucking pergola.
Yeah.
Pergola.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just I mean that's partially why I've not like fucked with the Xer Mixa, nor have I even installed the new Polyand tracker firmware, which I was very excited about.
Yeah.
You were.
And the main one I'm very excited about is or the main thing that's really caught my attention is the zero crossing.
Right, that's a big one.
Fucking huge. I guess that's one of the reasons why I've kind of held off on doing it, is because I know I've got to go through all of the shit I've been working on that I've been like got close enough. It's like still a little bit of a click, but it's like not that bad. All of that I've got to go back and like now I can actually just do fucking clean end sample playback. So
it's important for them slices.
Absolutely, which is
EMI breaks.
I do not have Amen breaks, but I've been recording a lot of stuff from my LXR into it. But even that, I can't get the zero crossing to be smooth. But I also got a little power brick, like a little USB one. So now I can go outside with my Polyand tracker under my pergola and work on music no one wants to hear.
Sick.
Yeah, I'm very excited. That's what I'm looking forward to. Like the rest of my fall is just me hanging out back there.
Yeah.
With the mosquitoes and the lantern flies. We got a little mosquito thing to like that's been mitigated pretty well, but lanternflies,
Yeah,
they're just fucking all over
they're
me.
nuts.
Yeah.
I can't even estimate how many I've killed.
Oh, and for everyone I've killed, 10 have
Mhm.
replaced them. It's really
Yeah, it's futile.
yeah. So yeah, I really just want to make sure everyone knew that I'm tired. That's it.
We know, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, just look at me. Like the bags under these eyes. It just yeah, you can see from a mile away.
Yeah, the trip over to Washington was cool. I finally got to check out Patchworks in person.
Mm.
Very cool staff, cool crew working in there. Jammed out a little bit, patched up some stuff. They had a nice selection.
And I saw video you
Mhm.
posted on Instagram. It seemed like you just went right in and went to town.
I did, yeah. I had some fun. I wish we had a shop like that here in Pittsburgh.
That
Yeah.
would be awesome.
It was really cool to get to play with stuff that I can't afford.
Right. But I mean, just even like having it hands on and being able to spend some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did the same thing a couple days later when I went up to Vancouver. I stopped at Nightlife Electronics, which was really hard to find. It's a totally nondescript building.
Mhm.
The windows are all blocked out. And it's just,
Like a speakeasy.
yeah, kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But I rang the doorbell and they opened it up and I peeked in and just saw, machines everywhere. I said, okay, this is the right place. But yeah, I played with a Perkins. I played with an Intelligel Cascadia, which I do not have good things to say about.
Smaller than I thought when we saw it at Knobcon. I was like, oh,
Very
tiny.
small, very cramped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I think that bothers me the most about it is like this. It's kind of like the successor to Atlantis,
hmm
which was, inspired by an SH-101, which has one of the, as I've said before many times on the show, the greatest interface of all, in my opinion. Like, I love that synth. I love programming a 101. The Atlantis was a similar flow. It was very simple, easy to understand. I was able to dial in 101-ish sounds on it. The Cascadia, total opposite. Like it's kind of a nightmare. It's just crammed with stuff.
It seems like a Swiss Army knife that has like the weird like wine screw, like basically like a hex set that you'll never use. It just seemed like it was like they threw so much shit on it to the point where I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need that. Like it
Right.
really, for the cost, and especially like again having seen it in real life here, like oh, you could have gotten rid of like so much of this shit and made it actually more usable.
Yeah, I'm still gonna hold out hope that they're gonna make like a proper sequel to the Atlantis. That will be maybe somewhere in between an Atlantis Mark 1 and a Cascadia,
Mhm.
some sort of happy middle ground. Because Cascadia just didn't do it for me at all. And I'm glad I got to play with it in person and learn that fact before I
Right.
dropped, a chunk of change on one and realized like it's not what I want.
I did not realize you were tempted by one.
I started to, yeah, because like I know it was supposed to harken to like the old Roland-ish sounds,
Yeah.
and so I was like, that thing could be cool. But the price and just the clusterfuck of an interface that it has going on there, yeah, not feeling it.
I've heard some videos where I thought it sounded good, and then some others where I was like, huh.
I mean, speaking of seeing things and them appearing smaller than I anticipated, did you see they had a Polyand Tracker Mini at Knobcon?
Yeah.
I did.
That thing is even smaller than I thought it was going to
yeah?
be. That is tiny as fuck.
It seemed about, it was probably about what.
Yeah, maybe I just had like in my mind and like it's going to be half the size of a tracker, and it was less than that. It
Oh,
was
It's like
yeah.
a little bigger than like a Game Boy Advance or something.
Yeah.
It's kind of small.
Like the small Kindle kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Apparently they're finally shipping as of today. Ben at Sweetwater hit me up and said that my pre-order that I made back in late April, early May,
Mhm.
I think it was May, is finally available.
Wow.
Yeah.
You getting it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I was hyped for it in May, and I had the money for it in June and July, but now following like trips to Washington and Chicago and such, I'm a little tapped out. I don't know if I can justify buying a Tracker Mini right this moment.
It's
Yeah.
also really expensive. The Tracker is now less than half of it.
Yeah,
That's
was it,
the
like
thing.
700?
Yeah,
$700, and from Polyend themselves, you can get a Mark 1 now for what, $350?
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Used, they're going for even less. So it's like, do I really want a Tracker Mini that much that it's worth paying double
Right.
of a Mark 1? And I'm kind of leaning towards no right now.
I've not even for a second thought about getting rid of my Tracker for the Mini.
Hmm.
I like the Tracker. I use those buttons all the time. I have a very hard time imagining not having those available to me. I feel like that would fuck up the workflow to the point of being cumbersome. Lack of stereo is a bummer. Like, that's very appealing about the Mini. It's not hundreds of dollars worth it to me. That I think that
Yeah.
like if it was like I could sell this and for $50 more I get stereo capability. It's basically
Well,
hundreds of
yeah.
dollars for that. That's really the only thing that would be appealing to me, and it's actually not much of a decision. for
Yeah.
me.
I mean, on paper, they say there's more to it than just stereo functionality, faster timing and this and that. But I mean, the new firmware that they just released for the Mark 1 fixes some of that. So again, it's like kind of weird that they're competing with their own products.
Yeah.
I think I think it's a good job. I mean, because you have both. I mean, you have people that are going to get the Mini without even thinking about it because
Mhm.
it's newest, it's small, super portable, it's stereo, but there's also this option that is for a completely different set of people.
Mhm.
I kind of honestly wish there was more companies took that sort of bold step. At first, I actually had a very similar idea of like, well, this is fucked up. This is weird. But the more I thought about it, and especially like being someone who's kind of on that one side, if I didn't have a Tracker right now, and those are my two options, I would be like, oh, this is rad. I have a choice.
Sure.
And for a lot of other people that are kind of looking at this and maybe for the first time, seeing like the Mini popping up and being like, fuck, $700. Well, wait, hold on. The first one's really cheap right now. Polyend still makes out on it. Like they're still selling them.
Yeah.
I think it's craftier than I thought it was initially. I kind of had a similar like, why are you competing with yourself? Why are you diluting from your flagship product? And I was like, no, actually, this makes perfect sense. More people can get it now.
Because it was supposed to come out years ago, they said too. It was supposed
Yeah.
to come out like not long after the OG or something like that.
Mhm.
I can see it as like a pair of products. So you've got your more portable one, even though they're both kind of portable.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, and it's battery powered too, and the Tracker
Sure.
isn't. So that's
Right.
the other thing is like, if that's important to you, it's a premium. Spend the extra couple $100, get the Mini. If it's not, get the old one. It's still available. And they're obviously still working on it. The new firmware just came out. It's also my same opinion for like, this is a weird analogy, but like Photoshop. I don't need all the new shit in Photoshop. If there was a cheap version that was Photoshop from 5 years ago that did all the shit that I want but was half the price,
Yeah.
I'd buy that. I'm kind of stuck with just getting the latest Photoshop from Creative Cloud because it's the only fucking choice. But if you get,
do they have Affinity Photo for the PC? That's what I use on Mac, and it's like exactly what you described, and it was like $50 one time.
I never seen that. I have to go through.
It's like just like Photoshop, with the exception of the shortcuts are different, but like
Yeah.
functionally, it's like the same.
I will have to look at that because on Creative Cloud, I just only had Photoshop was available, but
Right.
I may have just missed that. So maybe that my analogy sucked because it actually does exist. But no, that's. I think Adobe is kind of doing that thing of having the same product in multi-tier.
Yeah.
Fucking works out. I think it's a good plan.
Okay.
But you should still get the Mini so we can talk about it next episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to think about that.
And Ben wants you to get it, Greg. Think
I
about
know.
Ben.
I know, and I flaked on the last sale that he had set up for me, which was the Perkins, which I
Yeah.
decided to bail on.
Does Ben
After-
have kids?
I
You're taking food out of their mouths, Greg.
It's fucked up.
Fuck, dude. Do you even know what you're doing to Ben?
I don't know.
You should call him.
I'm sorry, Ben.
He wants to talk to you.
I'm getting some light pressure from somebody to get the Mark 1 Analog 4, which you can get for like, there's one on Reverb right now for like $580. And it's really tempting, but yeah, just to like A/B it for science. I just did air quotes around that.
Is it Ram Team?
Scabo.
It's because I was gonna say Ram Team's set at Big Noise Candy Mountain. You mentioned them earlier.
Yeah.
It's a good set. I really dug it. Yeah. As a spectacle, though, it did not compare to Harry Farrell, which was just a bunch of naked people screaming, and one of them had like a bird mask on, and the other one was covered in mud head to toe, and they were just dragging this person around the stage. It was
Sounds like something I would dig.
yeah, and at first I was like, it actually got into like kind of uncomfortable territories, which it's been a long time since I've saw like that sort of like noise performance artist that made me like get under my skin a little. And by the end, I was clapping like everyone else. It was bravo to everyone involved with Harry Farrell.
That just triggered for me. You know the book England's Hidden Reverse?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just got the paperback version of that, which
Congrats.
I pre-ordered.
I've wanted one forever. And
it's like, it's hard to put down.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculously like, oh, that's why that was named that. You know, it's like, you got to get it. Or
is that a reprint? Because I remember it was like impossible to get for a while.
It's the new. It was only like $35 or something.
Oh, shit.
Like that.
Okay.
Yeah. You can get it on Amazon. I waited like a year.
I know.
And then they finally just dropped it. Like, dude, it's like required for, especially for us three. It's like, it's required reading. It just, yeah. Like, I didn't know that like a throbbing gristle was just slang for like an erect penis in the town that they lived in. I thought it was something they made up, but it's not. Shit like that. It's full of shit like that.
Where did you get it from?
Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's where I saw it too, because it was like pre-order the paperback version for like $35. I was like, what the? Is this a fucking scam? No.
You just got a broken USB drive instead.
Yeah, broken USB drive that reports the wrong size.
Oh, it's exciting though. Yeah, I'm gonna grab that.
Can't wait to get back to it.
Was it called Coil in the name, or was it just called England's Hidden Reverse?
Yeah,
just
that.
Okay.
I'm just got like the first couple chapters. It's like David Tibet and then John Balance, and now we're getting into like Genesis, Topi, like what happened with like
Lady J,
Robert Egan Gristle, and haven't gotten there yet.
Christopherson
like
and stuff.
Early 80s, yeah.
Okay.
Like why Sleazy got the name Sleazy, like no surprise there, but like just a lot of shit like that.
I need this book.
Oh, you do. It's like total, like it's right up our alley.
It was just so fucking expensive to get copies for so long. That was the bummer.
It was impossible.
It's like that Records of Civilization book that is like impossible to get now. I had a copy of it. I let Nikki take it. And I'm kind of regretting that because I was like, I'll just rebuy this. Yeah, you take this, Nikki, and I'll keep my psychic Bible. And then I hopped on Amazon and looked up Records of Civilization. It's like, oh, it's out of print and it's going for $600. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. My the book on the Process Church, same deal. It was like out of print now and super expensive, and I let her take that one too. And my library is lacking. I'm like, okay, I need to re-get these books.
But no, I like the way it's written too, because it's like they'll talk about something and then like David Tibet will say something and Genesis will be like, well, that's not how I remember it. I remember it like this. So it's like kind of like
conflicting.
Yeah. You get the full view. It's fun.
Unreliable narration going on. I like it.
Plus drugs.
Plus drugs.
Yeah, plus drugs.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for letting the two of us and our listeners know.
Yeah.
I think anyone that listens to our podcast probably hates industrial music. They know we're all about EDM. And that new Skrillex.
Drops
all day.
Big fucking drops.
What modules gives me the biggest drop, Dave?
I mean, maybe we've talked a lot about the problems with the Large Hadron Collider putting us into a very odd timeline.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at this point it's very obvious that's what's happened. The fact that Skrillex is getting a second chance, also the result of science gone awry. We played God, and these are the consequences.
We fucked around and found out.
Exactly.
And now we got Skrillex.
This vape juice I'm using is just from Lauren Boebert and Skrillex fucking, and it's their sex fluids in a cartridge
At the Beetlejuice musical.
with hash rosin.
All right, that's gotta be the end.